Hello and welcome to Villain IAS. Today we are going to discuss the chapter Meaning, Scope and Development of Anthropology from Paper 1 Anthropology. The anthropology, it is the word which is derived from the Greek. Okay, so here the anthropo means the man or the human and logos means the study. So we can conclude that anthropology, it is the study of the science of man. Okay, our anthropology is thus the science of man. So the anthropology, it is the study of man. Also, it is concerning with the varied aspects of the man. It is mainly the physical and the cultural aspects of the life of man. Also, there may be some misunderstanding was there about the anthropology. Means it's a study of the cure customs of the savages or digging for the remains left by the prehistoric people. So usually people thought that it is just a digging for the remains which is left by the prehistoric people. But other than this, anthropology is covering the varied aspects of the life of man. It mainly includes the physical and cultural. Later we will discuss about the subfields or the categories of the physical and cultural aspects of the life. And also the anthropology, it is considered as a subject of half science and half arts. Also it is a young science which is yet to be intimately familiar with the students of the science. So these are the important meanings or the points about the anthropology. This is just a general aspect of the anthropology. The etymological meaning of anthropology is really broad and general. So we can conclude it precisely as the science of man and his works and behavior. But moreoverly, we can define it briefly as the science of groups of men. Why it's considering as the group of men? Because the anthropology which studies the human behavior not concerned with a particular man, but it is mainly concerning about the men in groups, like the races and other peoples and their happenings and doings. So that's why this is called as the science of group of the men. As well as the anthropology, in anthropology, the anthropologists are interested in all aspects of the human species as well as their human behavior, mainly in all places and at all times. That is from origin to evolution of the species through its prehistoric civilizations down to the present situations. That is, we know that the evolution, it is mainly started from amoeba to the human. So in anthropology, it is mainly concerning about this evolution, as well as we know that this is the simple aspects of the evolution. I am just written over here. That is from simple element, it is the formation of compounds, then the formation of complex compounds in the ocean, after that the formation of organic proteins and nucleic acids, later the formation of protoplasm, then it is evolved into the unicellular organisms, after that multicellular organisms, then the large and complex animals. After it is the development of the plants and animals. So in anthropology, it is mainly deal with the origin and the evolution of the species through its prehistoric civilizations, as well as it is comparing with the present situations. We know that physiology, psychology, pathology, economics, sociology, these are the other subjects. Okay, when we comparing with these subjects, anthropology means we comparing the anthropology with these subjects, we can see that anthropology is mainly studies the various aspects of the human. It mainly includes the social, cultural, and also the scopes is relevant in the geographical, historical, or the traditional, holistic nature. So in the anthropology, the studies are covering the various aspects of the man. When we looking into the physiology, okay, so when we consider this as the human body, then in physiology, it mainly deals with the functions of the organs in the human body. Here, the process of life of an individual is considering in the physiology. And also in the psychology, it is mainly deal with the mental and conditions of the man. So when we are comparing a human, when we are taking a human, we can divide it certain way. First one is the physiology. Physiology, it deals with the functions of the organs. In psychology, it is differently, means it deals with the mental conditions of the human. When we are taking the pathology, it studies about the diseases of a man. When we are taking the sociology, it mainly discussing about the social groups or the institutions. So institution like marriage, family, all these things are under the sociologist. And when we are looking into economics, it is dealing about the household management, like the production, distribution and consumption of wealth. So here we can see that a man, a life of or the various aspects of a man is studied by different area or different subject. When we are taking anthropology, anthropology means other than all these subjects, anthropology studies the various aspects of man together. Okay, so from here we can conclude that anthropology is the science of the man. Thus, each of the above biological and social sciences deals with one aspect of man or with particular individuals only. But the anthropologist, they focuses his attentions on the men in groups, and also they studies the total society which consisting of the race or peoples of the world, both the past and present. Means anthropology, they study the past as well as the present. Like also they deal with the races or the peoples of the overall world. So this is the major aspects of the anthropology. So we already discussed that anthropology, it is a study of the scientific study of the man. So according to Kluckholen, he points out that out of all other scientific disciplines, means psychology is there, sociology is there, economics and pathology, lots of subjects are there. Okay, so out of all these subjects, anthropology, it deals with or which comes nearest to the total study of a man. Okay, and also it may be called a holistic or synthesizing discipline or a science of man in its totality. And anthropology is both a biological as well as a social science. Means it deals on the one hand with men as a member of the animal kingdom and on the other with man's behavior as a member of society. That is anthropology. It is considering both as a biological and social science. Why? Because in biology, in biological aspect, the man is considered as the member of an animal kingdom. And in man's behavior, in social science, here we are considering it as the behavior of the man in his society. So that's why anthropology is considering as a biological as well as the social science. So both the structural evolution of mankind and the growth of civilization are studied from the earliest times of which any record survives to the present. Similarly, in his concern with the contemporary human groups and civilizations, the anthropologist places particular emphasis on the comparative studies. Definitions. We have to write lots of definitions in our exam, so we have to remember some definitions. Okay, here we are just taken 3 definitions. It's the anthropology of the science of man. We already discussed this according to L. Kroeber. And the anthropology, it is a study of man and his works. Similar definition is given by Melville J. Heskowitz. And out of all the sciences which study various aspects of the man, anthropology is the one which comes nearest to the total study of the man. We already discussed this meaning. Okay, that is the Clyde Kluckholen. We discussed that when we are taking a human body, here what happened is the physiology, psychology, economics, sociology and lots of subjects are there. Okay, here it deals with the functions of the organs, then the about the mind or the behavior, and in the economics it is distribution, production or the household management. In sociology, about the society or the behavior of man in the society. Also anatomy is there, it deals with the structure of the organ. Microbiology is there, again pathology is there. So it all studies the human aspects, okay. But when considering the human in anthropology, it is about the total study of the man. So these are the important definitions, okay. Certain disciplines are there, that is sociology, psychology, political science, economics, history, human biology, and the humanities disciplines of the philosophy and literature. So when we are considering this whole catalog of disciplines, we can't conclude that defining means anthropology as the study of human beings. It is not complete, okay, because all these subjects are also dealing with the uh, human beings, that is the study of the human beings. So if we want to define anthropology as the study of human beings, it is not complete. We need to incorporate, for such a definition, we need to incorporate a whole catalog of disciplines. So these are the disciplines that we need to incorporate in order to get that defined. That means that definition, that is the study of the human being. The questions which is mainly based on the anthropology means when, where and why human appeared on the earth, how and why they have changed since then, how and why the modern population vary in certain physical features, and how and why societies in the past and present have varied in their customary ideas and practices. So these are the important questions. In order to get the answers for these questions, the anthropology evolved and the anthropologists they try to seek answers for these questions. So now we have to discuss about the scope of anthropology. This is important for our exam. So this is according to Ember, okay? When you read Ember, you can see the scope. In Ember, I just took this slide. That is in scope that it mainly includes the geographical as well as the historical. So in the scope in geographically means anthropology is mainly concerned with the explicitly and directly with all varieties of people throughout the world as well as all periods. And also they are focusing on the ancestors of the human who lived a few million years ago. Also they are tracing the development of humans until the present. Traditionally, the anthropologist is concerned on a non-Western cultures or the left the study of the Western civilization and similarly complex societies with their recorded histories to other disciplines. So when looking to the traditional anthropology, where the anthropologist is concentrated on the non-Western cultures and they left the study of the Western civilizations. Similarly, the complex societies with their recorded histories to other disciplines. And in recent years, the division of labor among the disciplines has begun to disappear. That is the division of labor. And now the anthropologists are working their own and other complex societies. So these are the general aspect of the scope of anthropology. And what includes the anthropologists to choose broad a subject for the study. So there are just factors are there for conducting the study of the anthropology. Means they are motivated by the belief that any suggested generalization about human beings or any possible explanation of some characteristics of human culture or biologies. In short, it is mainly to find the root of human evolution or the ancestors, and it should be shown to apply to many times and places of human existence. If a generalization or explanation does not prove to apply widely, we are entitled or even obliged to be skeptical. Means there is example is there. When American educators discovered, means in 1960, the study is conducted, okay. Some American educators were there. They discovered that the African American school children, they rarely drank the milk. So they thought that there will be lack of money or the education is not means lack of knowledge will be the reason for this effect. Means the children in the African American school will rarely drink milk. From later they find that they lack the enzyme called lactose. Means the evidence from the anthropology which suggested that anthropology had known for years that in many parts of the world where milking animals were kept, people do not drink fresh milk. Rather, they sour it before they drink or they make it into cheese. The main reason is that they lack an enzyme called lactose. Here we can locate the importance of anthropology. Okay, by the evidence of anthropology, we concluded that it is the lack of an enzyme called lactose. Otherwise, if there is no discipline like anthropology, then we will think that it will be the lack of money or the education. It leads the children of African American school to don't drink the milk. Okay, so this is the importance of the anthropology. It means that we are entitled or even obliged to be skeptical. Skeptical means doubtful condition. Okay, means in the skeptical attitude, in the absence of a persuasive evidence, it is our best protection against accepting the invalid ideas about humans. So rather than accepting the invalid ideas about the humans, it is good to stay in a skeptical nature. So what about the lactose? Here we say that the lactose means many people lack the enzyme called lactose. The lactose, it is necessary for breaking down the lactose, the sugar in the milk. The enzyme is called lactase. And this is necessary for breaking down the lactose which is present in the sugar milk. Also, the studies indicate that there were lots of other milk tolerances found in the many parts of the world like the Asians and the Southern Europeans, Arab, Jews, Western Africans and North and South American Indians, African Americans as well as the Eskimos. So this is the importance of the anthropology. So because of this study, they found that people lack the enzyme called lactase. Also, the lactase is important for the digestion. Means when such people drink regular milk, it will interfere with digestion, and not only in the lactose in the milk not digested, but other nutrients are less likely to be digested. So this will lead to the stomach gas, diarrhea, nausea, cramps. Eventually, if there is no treatment or if some person is continuously having diarrhea, it will lead to starvation and death. Okay, so this is important knowledge, because rather than accepting the invalid ideas or the aspects or the about the human life, it is good to be stay as a skeptical or the doubtful in nature. So this is the importance of the anthropology. Holistic approach. So holistic approach is also called as the multifaceted approach to the study of the human beings. It is the aspect of human experiences which describing a group of people. Okay, and the anthropologist might discuss that the history of the area in which the people live, was also the physical environment and the organization of the family life and the general features of their language and the group and settlement patterns and political and economic systems, religion, styles and art and dress. So these are the topic or the things the anthropologists might have to discuss. In holistic approach, it is considering in as the past and the present. In the past, the individual anthropologists tried to be holistic and cover many subjects. But in present, lots of disciplines are there like the microbiology, then physiology, anatomy, sociology, pathology, these are there. So lots of information is already accumulated. So that tend the anthropologists to specialize in one topic or area. Means one may study the prehistoric aspect of the ancestors, their physical features, okay, the physical features of the prehistoric ancestors, and other may study the biological aspects of a group of society likewise, or the biological effects of the human populations over a period of time or at a specific time. But despite these specializations, the discipline of anthropology, which retains its holistic orientations in that its many different specialities of which is taken together and describe many aspects of the human existence, both the past and the present. So these are the important holistic approach. Now we are going to move on the scope of anthropology. So later we discussed about the scope of anthropology. The source is from Ember. In Ember, the scope of anthropology is mainly categorized into geographical, then the traditional. Also we discuss about the holistic approach, recent level, traditional. Okay. So other than this, the scope of anthropology, in the anthropology, it have mainly two main branches. The first one is called as the physical anthropology and the second one is called as the cultural anthropology. We know that anthropology, this is developed in Europe, England, USA, Australia and other English speaking countries including India. Okay, but in Europe, except in England, USA, Australia and other English speaking countries including India, anthropology means the both physical and cultural anthropology, and the term ethnology is rarely used for the cultural anthropology except in England, okay, and other countries. So in Europe, they used it is the both physical and cultural anthropology, and the term ethnology is rarely used for the cultural anthropology. And the ethnography has been known as a merely a descriptive study of the human culture. So anthropology have two main branches, that is the physical and cultural anthropology. Scope of physical anthropology. Physical anthropology is mainly deals with the human biology, human evolution, human variation and the human genetics. The first topic is the human biology. In the human biology, we know that the physical anthropologist study the human biology as he interested in the Homo sapiens alone. So, why human biology is taken? Because the anthropologists are interested in the study of the human sapiens alone. So that's the reason for the evolution of the scope of human biology. And also it studies the man out of the vast range of creatures that claim the attention of the general biologists. And therefore there is a close relationship between the physical anthropology and the study of other living beings. The physical anthropologist which tells about the man's place in animal kingdom by making a comparative study of the different groups of man and his near relations like the apes, monkeys, etc., whom we call as the primates. So the primates are called as the apes or monkey. We already know that some tribes are there and some simple societies are there. Usually the Western people, they try to call them as the primates. Actually the primates, using the term primates to call the simple society, it is a type of verbal abuse. So we have to consider them as the traditional society or the simple society. Okay, and the primates are considered as the apes, monkeys, orangutan, chimpanzees. So they are our primates, not the other tribes in Africa or in other people. So they are not the primates. The primates are the apes, monkeys, etc. So the human evolutions. So like the other animals, human also it's a living organisms. They also evolved from the unicellular organisms. We know that the evolution started from the single cellular organisms called amoeba. So from this, it over the time it evolved into the multicellular organisms. Then after that, the complex structures. Then the present plants, animals, humans, they are just evolved. So in order to study this aspect, the physical anthropologist deals with the human evolutions, okay, as well as these evidence were taken from the geological and the paleontological aspects, okay. So from where we concluded that the first living organisms had been appeared on earth, which consisted of one cell and which is known as the unicellular organisms or the amoeba. In course of time, these simple homogeneous organisms through the process of change attained to the heterogeneous forms at various stages. And the man is said to have emerged during the Quaternary epoch of the Cenozoic era. And in analysis of the human evolution, the paleontology plays an important role. Already we know that it is important to study the anatomy, or the it is to get details about the racial differences. So it is important to study the human evolution. Okay, that is the physical anthropology. Without prior training in anatomy, we can't identify or we can't understand the racial differences, other things. Okay, so on the basis of the geological evidences, it has become possible to find out the age of the different forms of preserved under the earth. So this is just the evolution process. From the unicellular organisms, the complex structures or the organisms were formed. So in order to know about the life or the evolutions, we have to deal about the human evolutions. That's why the physical anthropology is considering this subject. And the human variations. Why the human variations are important? We already discussed that human evolutions. Okay, where we studied about the origin, development, and the place of evolution of man. So once after the evolutions, we notice that the humans are different in appearance as well as the nature or the behavior. So why all these varieties happen? Because the common ancestor or the source of we belongs to the species Homo sapiens, but the humans are appearing so differently. So that's why we are just focusing on the human variations. Okay, so it is generally found that the common hereditary does not resemble those of other groups in various ways. So each of these group is designated as the race. That's why the physical anthropology, the different aspects of the races are studied. So here, in order to study these human variations, we are taking the somatology. The somatology or the somatoscopic observations and the anthropometry is useful for this purpose. Here we are just characters, means we are comparing the different features of the humans, or the like the nose, ears. The Indians have when we are taking our country, India, we know that South Indians are the Dravidians and the North Indians and the Aryans. They do have the physical different physical features in their body. So in order to study this, we are taking the somatoscopic observations and the anthropometry. Here you can see the somatoscopic observations. Okay, here we are just taking the typical example of the lip. Here we are viewing the frontal and the lateral view. Lateral view means the side view. Okay, here this like the thin, medium, thick, puffy. This is just an example to identify, to understand what is somatoscopy. So this is a qualitative method which is used to descriptive characterizations in the evolution of human body and the features. Okay. Previously, the methodology of the physical anthropology was consisting of the descriptive stages. Now it changed into the analytical stage, because in the classical physical anthropology, they were just mainly interested in the classifications. They just do the classifications of the particular thing, but they will not try to interpret them. So if we are taking the example, the black native African have a platyrrhine nose, whereas the European has a leptorrhine nose. But the anthropologist, means the physical anthropology, they just classified the nose. Okay, but they didn't try to interpret them. Now we got the explanations. Okay, so in recent times, the attention of the physical anthropologists which have been diverted to genetics. We know that genetics, it is a branch of the biology where it mainly deals with the descent, variation and the hereditary. Okay, so they now study in the blood types. So we know that blood types are there, A group are there, B group are there, O group are there. So and also AB are there. Okay, and differences in the musculature, etc. So these are the main things that are considering or dealing under the genetics. And they also study the group differences in the time of sexual maturation and growth rates and various diseases, immunities. Okay, so these studies have practical value and results may be used in the various ways. So the physical anthropologists study also the influence of the natural environment on the man and trace to find out whether the physical traits of man are affected by the environment. So in the physical anthropology and in the human genetics, They are already considering the natural environment too. And also moreover, he studies the problems associated with the physical changes, effects of the food and mode of life on racial and physical characteristics. So the other studies of physical anthropologies are also there. So other than this, the human genetics is there. So we just consider the human evolution, human variations and the human genetics. And the other studies of physical anthropology, it includes the demography. Okay. So demography means it is the study of the populations. It is also the other aspect of the physical anthropology. In demography, it pertains about the fertility and mortality. Mortality means death rate and the morbidity means the infections. Okay. So various factors are there. Means hereditary, environment are there which influence the fertility and the mortality. So these things are studied under the physical anthropology. And there is another subject is called the pedagogical anthropology. From this word, it directly mentioning about the educational system. Okay. So in various educational fields, the pedagogical studies are utilized by many advanced countries. Okay. On the whole, the physical anthropology is highly a specialized branch of the anthropology. So now we just considered about the scope of physical anthropology. It may include the human evolutions, human variations, human genetics and other aspects. It includes the pedagogical study as well as the demography. We know that demography, it is a study of the populations. So the second part is the scope of cultural anthropology. So in the cultural anthropology, there are almost as many definitions of the cultures as their scholars. Okay. So in order to understand the culture, we must know the steps by which the mankind had transformed itself from an instinct-dominated anthropoid into a cultural adaptive human being. So we transformed from an instinct-dominated anthropoid to a adaptive human being. Okay, we know that now we are culturally adaptive. And the cultural anthropology, which deals with the learned behavioral characteristics of the past, present and the future of the human societies. Now the main fields of the cultural anthropology means under the cultural anthropology, the main fields are there. That is the prehistoric archaeology, ethnology and the ethnolinguistics. And ethnology is again classified into economic anthropology, social anthropology, ethnography, religion, art and the musicology, recreations and the folklore are studied. Folklore means it is pertaining about the stories that is relevant in their societies. Okay, so these are the main classifications of the cultural anthropology. So the first one is the prehistoric archaeology. So archaeology, from the term we can say that the excavations. Okay, so this is a specialist branch of the cultural anthropology where the prehistorians pick their pick and shovel. So this is the pick and shovel. So they will this will contributing their first hand knowledge about the extinct peoples. Means they will visit the field or the area, they will excavate the places or they will study the extinct peoples structures or there some aspects of the culture like the pot or lots of things they just identified from that particular area. That is the first hand knowledge. Okay, so they enlighten us with how the prehistoric people coped with the natural setting by making tools and implements, weapons and other necessary equipments. It is to serve their biological and the psychological needs. So their biological and psychological as well as the food, clothing, etc. Okay. And the prehistoric archaeology has also been helpful in finding out the sequences of culture and dating the past by adopting the various methods such as the stratigraphy, radiocarbon methods, etc. So these are the important aspects of the prehistoric archaeology. And the second one is the paleontology. So the paleontology means it is another scientific discipline. It is closely associated with the prehistory and which is helpful to make a study on the extinct area races from their fossilized form. So we can conclude that paleontology is the study of the fossils. Okay, so from here we can study the extinct races and their features. So it tells us how the modern races have evolved from those extinct fossil races. So the technology used in the paleontology are in order to satisfy his wants to live by adjusting with the natural environment, man had to make some metal objects like the tools and implements, and also the weapons, utensils, clothes, house, canals, etc. So these are called as the material culture of the people. And the study of the techniques of making these objects of metal culture is known as the technology. And this aspect of culture in the past is being studied with the help of prehistoric archaeology. So from the level of prehistoric archaeology, we are studying these material aspects of the people. So mainly the paleontology, it concerns the fossilized forms. Okay. Here we can see the picture. The people are excavating here. They are just observing and excavating the fossilized forms. And the paleontology, it is a study of the ancient life from dinosaurs to prehistoric plants, mammals, fish, insects, fungi, and even more microbes. Okay. And the next classification, we know that is the ethnology. So ethnology is another field of the cultural anthropology, and it appears as recognized, means it is considered as a branch about 1814. It developed very greatly during the next 100 years. Okay, it makes a comparative study of the cultures of the world and emphasizes the theory of the culture. It is often called as the cultural anthropology, and sometimes it used as synonym for anthropology also. Ethnology before 1840 means they just called as the cultural anthropology. Now they are different discipline of the cultural anthropology, means it is the field which is studied under the cultural anthropology. Okay, they are just comparing the cultures of the people or the races from the world. They are just comparing their features, and then they are making the theory of the culture. And the next one is the ethnography. Ethnography means studies are essential for the cultural anthropologist. Why it is essential? It is to know the links between the different cultures and the principles guiding the socio-cultural systems. Okay. And also the ethnology includes its fold economic anthropology, social anthropology, religion, art, musicology, recreation, and the folklore. And as a matter of the fact, ethnology, it interprets the facts on data collected through ethnographic studies, classifies them, and formulates principles with regard to the nature of human behavior and the evolution and the functioning of the culture. So these are the important aspects about the ethnography. And ethnography means it's simply the study of the culture of the living peoples of the world through the direct and indirect observations of behavior. So in the ethnography, they are observing the direct and indirect observations of what? The behavior. Okay. And ethnography is not the study of the races. It is the study of the cultures, and which is the work of the physical anthropologist. Okay. So it involves, means the ethnography is not the study of races. What? The races which is studied by the physical anthropology. We already studied about the physical anthropology, means like the human evolution is there, human variations are there, where the human variations are pertaining to the study of the races. Okay, so the ethnography, it involves the collection of the data only and the raw materials for the scientific analysis. Okay, so these are the important concepts of the ethnography. And the economic anthropology, we know that the ethnology is further divided into the what? Economic anthropology, social anthropology. So the first one is the economic anthropology. So it mainly studies the means of subsistence of the man, mainly in the household management. Okay, it mainly studies the different features like the production, distribution, and the consumptions of the material goods and their relationship with their aspects of the socio-cultural complex. So these are the main concepts of the economic anthropology. And also it is a field that attempts to explain the human economic behavior in the widest historic, geographic, and the cultural scope. And it is practiced by the anthropologist as a complex relationship with the discipline of economics, which it is highly critical. So the anthropology studies what man produces, how he produces, what and how he consumes, and what and how he distributes or exchanges. Okay. So these are the main aspects of the economic anthropology. Next one is the social anthropology. We already know that man is a social animal, okay, because we also live in the society. So we have to adopt our social environment and we have to learn how to live in a social cohesion. We already know that a man is born in a family and the family it is the smallest unit of a society. So automatically we are the socialized unit, that is we socialized through this unit. Okay, as a society is a web of social relationship, a man is tied to the society with various strings of the social relationship. Society means what? When we are considering the society, it is a web of social relationships. Lots of relationships are there. Family is a relationship, social relationship, marriage, kinship, educations, a job, markets, everything is like a social institution or the socialized aspect. Okay, so the man is tied to the society through the various strings. So means he is a member of the kinship group such as the family, lineage, clan, fratry, moiety, etc. And also man is also involved in the social institutions such as the marriage, government, law. So we have to adjust with our social environment in order to keep the society in continuity and to abide by the various laws and customs which is formulated by the society. So all these things are dealing under the social anthropology. And about the religion, lots of things are there, means about the earth, sun, moon, stars, fire, water, air. Man can't explain the things or the facts about all these aspects. So from there, the religion were emerged. Okay, means the reasons for the or the causes of the storm, thunder, earthquake, and the volcano. Why the drought is happening? Why the flood is happening? Why the death? Why the life? How we born? Lots of things are there. Why the diseases were means coming? Why the animals are like this? Why the people are different? So lots of things were there. We can't their time, the prehistoric time, the people can't answer all these things. Thus, it made the belief of some supernatural powers. Okay. So in this background, the supernatural powers emerged and lots of some magical religious performances were initiated, and these are the main root of cause of the religion. So these techniques were generally used by some specialists called the shamanas and the priestess who were known as the religious practitioners. So all these things are considered in this religion aspect. Art, musicology, and recreations. So by adapting to the natural, social, and the socio-natural, supernatural environments, it is to satisfy the biological, social, and the spiritual needs of the man. So we already need to run some other activities to give the satisfaction and also the relaxations. Thus the art, musicology, and the recreations where came. Okay. So the cultural anthropology, it includes all these topics. So it is a comparative study. Okay. The next one is the folklore. So folklore means it is treated as one of the branches of the cultural anthropology and it is treated as a separate discipline. So we can consider it as a science which deals with the survivals of the archaic beliefs and customs in the civilized people. So the folklore, it is a different subfield or the aspect of the ethnology. The next one is the ethno-linguistics. The linguistics means the language. So it is dealing with the cultural linguistics. Okay. So it is another branch of the cultural anthropology and it is highly specialized one. Sometimes we call it as cultural linguistics where it is the relationship between the language and cultures are dealing. Okay. Or it is studied means it studies the relationship between the language and the culture and the way the different ethnic groups perceive the word. Okay, so it is the combination between the ethnology and the linguistics that is called as the ethno-linguistics. The former refers the way of the life of an entire community, that is all the characteristics which distinguish one community from the other. The ethno-linguistic study, okay, it is a study of the human speech and the various dead and living languages. We already know that some languages are extincted, they are not known, and so in this aspect, in this cultural linguistic anthropology, we are just considering the various dead and living languages and the dialectics of the different groups of peoples of the world. Okay, as well as it is very useful to help the to study the unwritten languages. Means by using the or by with the help of linguistics we can study the unwritten languages. So the unwritten languages examples are, there are some examples are there, means in the way of the spatial orientations. It is expressed in various cultures or in many societies. The cardinal directions were used. Okay, means the words for the cardinal directions east and west are derived from the terms of the sunset or sunset, sunrise or sunset. Means from the some tribes, they just follow the course of the river to reach a particular area, or they just follow the sunrise or sunset. All these things are there. They just rarely use the linguistics. Some people they don't know, they don't use the linguistics. Some have the unwritten languages. So by using these linguistics we can study the unwritten languages. Okay, the nomenclature for the cardinal directions of the Inuit speakers of Greenland, however, it is based on the geographical landmark, that is the river, sunrise, sunset. All these things are the geographical landmarks they just considered. So example is the Yurok. They lack the ideal of cardinal direction, so they orient themselves with the respect of their principal geographical feature. The Yurok, it is a tribe. They just followed the Klamath River. This is their principal geographical feature. Okay. Also, this is a study of the language is somewhat older than the anthropology. So we can see the Yurok people. So these are the Yurok tribes. So they just followed the geographical features. Okay. The Yurok, they are the indigenous people along the Klamath River and in the Pacific coast, whose homelands are located in the present-day California, stretching from Trinidad in the south to Crescent City in the north. You have to remember the tribe name. Okay, this is important for that's a case study in your exam. And the other specialities of the cultural anthropology, it includes the ethnoecology. So this is a special subfield of the anthropology which deals with the adaptation of human beings to their total environment. And the urban anthropology. The urban anthropology means, we know that from the word itself we can conclude that it just came recently. Okay, so this is a anthropology, is a subject which is concerned with the issue of urbanizations, poverty, urban space, social relations and the neoliberalism. Okay, so this is just came recent times, and this field has become consolidated in the 1960s and 1970s. Although some anthropologists studies ethnic populations in the urban settings since the beginning of this century. And the urban anthropology in fact has started as a special study in the since 1961. Okay, 67. And the urban anthropologists are trying to bring the unique attributes of the anthropology to the study of the urban cultures in the contemporary society. Urban anthropology, it is heavily influenced by the sociology, especially in the Chicago School of the Urban Sociology. You have to remember this name. It will be useful to note in your exam. Okay. And the traditional differences between the sociology and the anthropology formerly was the traditionally conceived as the study of the civilized populations. Okay. And whilst the anthropology approached as the study of the primitive populations. Means sociology means the civilized population. Anthropology was considered as the study of the primitive populations. So this is the basic traditional difference between the sociology and anthropology. And also there was a difference between these two disciplines. That is the sociology, it will study a large population sample. Other side, the anthropologists, there is relied on the fewer informants with the deeper relations. Okay, as well as the interest in urban societies were increased, and the methodology between these two field subjects matter began to blend and leading to questions that differences between the urban sociology and the urban anthropology. So first time means the earlier time there was sociology and anthropology were there, and sociology were considered as the civilized populations, the study of the civilized populations, and the anthropology, the study of the primitive populations were concerned. But after this, sometimes the interest in the urban societies increased. So once after the interest in urban societies increased, the methodology, the two methodologies in these two fields, subject matters, it began to blend. Okay, then it leading to the urban sociology and the urban anthropology. So these lines between the two fields have blurred with the interchange of the ideas and methodology to the advantage and advancement of the both disciplines. All about the political anthropology. It was started after the World War II. Okay, so means after the consequent emergence of the independent developing countries from the empire holdings in Asia and Africa, the economics and the political science have become actively interested in the study in the indigenous cultures of the parts of the world. Thus, the study of the pyramid and the colonial system of politics has been undertaken since the 1950. So, the political anthropology, which concerns the structure of political system, it looked at from the basis of the structure of the societies. And after the 1960s, around these 1960s, and is still unfolding, the anthropology started increasingly study more about the complex social settings in which the presence of state bureaucracies and the markets entered both the ethnographic accounts as well as the analysis of the local phenomenon. We will discuss more about the political anthropology further in our chapters. Okay. So the last one is the applied anthropology and the action anthropology. This is also a scope of the anthropology. So applied anthropology, we know that contemporary life we use, its applications are there in the contemporary use. Okay, contemporary life. So the anthropometry means it is a science of measuring the different limbs of the body. So it is an inevitable part of the physical anthropology. We can't exclude this part, okay? Otherwise, we can't identify the factors or the characters of the body or our traits or traits, okay? With its helps, various measurement of the limbs of the body are taken so as to know the proportions of the lengths. So with this knowledge, the physical anthropologists, they can advise in respect of sitting arrangements in the aeroplanes, railways, classroom and offices. So here you can see the applications of the anthropology in our contemporary life. Because of the anthropometry, we can measure the different limbs of the body, means we can identify all the races and different things. So after identifying the body nature, we can arrange the sitting arrangements of the aeroplanes, railways, even classrooms and offices. This is very important in our daily life. And the physical anthropology, it is useful in detecting the criminals. How we can detect the criminals? By using the knowledge of the foot and hand prints. This is unique for all individuals. We can't manipulate the prints, okay? So it will be very easier to detect the criminals as the type of foot and handprints are never changed during the man's lifetime. So this is also an important applications of the anthropology in our life. And the blood groups are there. It also helps in the detecting the animals. Okay, the forensic department, we can simply say that forensic anthropology. And also the physical anthropology can also advise with the regard to finding out the father of the son born to an unmarried mother. So means by means of the genetics and the blood grouping. When we consider as A group is there, B group is there, we already discussed in our syllabus part. It includes the A and group, A and O and B and O. Then AB, for the A and B parents, the children will born like A, B, AB. Okay, so from this type we can identify the criminals as well as the father of an unmarried mother. And the population explosion. How we study the population? We studied it is the demographic. Okay, so this is a great problem when we look in our country as well as Bangladesh and then North Africa. So it is a very issue for us for our future life, as well as lots of environmental issues are there. Lots of issues will be there once after the population explosion. So the two-pronged strategy to produce more food as well as to control the human populations by the way of green revolutions, family planning programs, all these things we need to cope up. Okay, and the services of the cultural anthropology are useful for this planning, that is for the development programs, and similarly for the successful implementation of prohibition, family planning, adult education, various other development programs like the services of the cultural anthropologists are really essential in this case. Okay, and the national integration. It is another erosive problem in India. Means the service of both the physical and cultural anthropologists are essential in order to solve the problems like the casteism. We know that the things which break our unity are the casteism, communism, regionalism, racialism. So in order to get rid of all these things, we have the means we have to seek the help of both the cultural anthropologist as well as the physical anthropologist. So nowadays there is a problem is called that is the labor management in various industries. It have been acute and labor strike is frequently over there. So these problems could be mitigated to a greater extent if the living and psychological conditions of the laborers are studied earlier with the help of the cultural anthropology. If we know the situation of the laborers, then we can take the actions. Means that we already know that prevention is the better than the, means prevention is better than the treatment. Okay, so if we know the issues of the laborers or the workers, then from the grass level or from the base level, we can get rid of the problems. Then to a limit, to a certain limit, we can avoid the labor strikes and other further issues. So all these things are important in our applied anthropology, okay, in our life. And the next one is action anthropology. The main importance of the action anthropology, it is to study the process of changes in the society. So if there is any change in our society, it will really impact some effects, or there will be some changes will be there in our life. Okay, so and they help the people to overcome the adverse effect of the change. If a change is there, then surely there will be some adverse effect. So action anthropology will help us to overcome these adverse effects of changes and guide us planning in such a way that the people do better in the process of the change. So these are the important aspects in the action anthropology. So here we can see an overall picture of the anthropology, means it is mainly divided into physical anthropology and the cultural anthropology. Physical anthropology, it mainly classified into human genetics, human paleontology, ethnology, anthropometry, biometry, and the cultural anthropology include the social anthropology, prehistoric archaeology. And lots of classifications are there. Linton's classifications of anthropology is there, and the Piddington's classification of anthropology is there. Okay, in this classification it is the physical anthropology into human paleontology and somatology, and cultural anthropology into archaeology, ethnology, and linguistics. Okay, and the Piddington's classification, it includes the physical anthropology into human genetics, anthropometry or the somatology, and the cultural anthropology into prehistoric anthropology and the social anthropology. Origin and development of anthropology. So how the anthropology is developed, or when it was emerged. Okay, so we know that man and his surroundings have always been a perennial source of wonder and reflection of himself. So this wonder and reflection means how they emerged, what happened to the civilization, how the evolution happened, how the plants came, how the animals came, who were our ancestors, what is primates. So all these reflections and the questions, doubts, it leads to the emergence of their consciousness. Okay, so this consciousness insisted them for searching of the realities. So this marks the beginning of the study of man. And to know about this, we have to refer back to the classical Greek civilization. So especially the writings of Herodotus in the 5th century BC is noticing the origin and development of anthropology. But not only Herodotus, other Greek and Roman historians are there. They are considered as the pioneers of the social thinkers. Means they are the Socrates, Aristotle, Hippocrates, Plato, etc. So they just first expressed their significant interest in man's affairs considering the perspective of universe. So the anthropology was began from the perspective of universe. So from that angle they started studying about the man's affairs. So initially their approach was purely humanistic. Later they postulated a social theory from the organismic point of view. So when coming to the emergence of the anthropology, it says that it had only happened in the recent year, that is the 19th century. And in the book that is Readings in Early Anthropology by the Sidney Slotkin, he traced that the history of anthropology from the 17th and 18th century, means it's defining its disciplines. Okay, but he also agreed that the real professional interests came around the 19th century. So 19th century is considered as the birth of anthropology. And the second one is the Hodgkin. So Hodgkin, with collaboration with several other distinguished persons, he inaugurated Ethnological Society in the Berlin in 1839. And also later in 1841, he inaugurated same thing. A similar type of society was formed in London, and 1842 a third ethnological society was formed in New York. Here we can see that the ethnological society was opened in Berlin, London and New York. So because of this, anthropology is therefore considered as the product of scientific developments in the Western world. Okay, and the importance of Charles Darwin. We know Charles Darwin is the whenever we listen about this name, it will be immediately came to mind about the evolution. Okay, so it's the origin of species. So how Charles Darwin plays an important role in the emergence of anthropology. So according to Charles Darwin, the life had evolved from an unicellular organism. Example, it's amoeba. So from the unicellular organisms, lots of process through the process of evolution, through the different times, it reached to the multicellular organisms, to the complex organism, isn't it? So plants, animals, humans, etc. So everything is just started from an amoeba or a unicellular organisms. So this theory, it plays an important role in zoology, anatomy, physiology, philology, paleontology, archaeology, geology, and also it plays an important role in socio-cultural studies also. Well, the Darwin's theory was influenced by some of the intellectuals. They are the Spencer, Morgan, Taylor. Okay, so they reached a conclusion. Means the physical aspect of mankind is there, but also the cultural life is there in case of the evolutions. So this aspect or this importance of cultural life, it was put forward by the Spencer, Morgan and Taylor, but they got influenced by the Darwin's theory of origin of species in 1859. So the same year anthropology got birth. Means the 1859, it has taken as the date of birth of the anthropology, and also the anthropology was termed as the child of Darwin by the R.R. Marett. Okay, in the same year, so in 1859, it plays an important role in anthropology. It's the origin of species theory by the Charles Darwin. He got influenced by certain intellectuals, Spencer, Morgan, Taylor, and it is considered as the birth of anthropology. And also R.R. Marett in 1912, it's termed anthropology as the child of Darwin. As well, in the same year, that is 1859, Paul Broca, he founded the Anthropological Society. Before that, there was Ethnological Society. Then after in 1859, they founded Anthropological Society in Paris. Okay, and he advanced the idea of the general biology by synthesizing all the specialist studies in order to understand a man. So anthropology made a significant process in America following the Broca's light. Okay, so nearly 13 years, means from 1840 to 1870, there was a debate was taken about two words, that is the ethnology and anthropology. And also by this time, means 1814 to 1870, by this time, such names such as the anthropology, ethnology, ethnography, archaeology, prehistory, philology, linguistics were firmly established. Also, after a few years, anthropology really acquired a synthetic character and honored both in Europe and America. So this is about some basic concepts about the emergence of anthropology. Louis Morgan Henry. Louis Henry Morgan, he is one of the leading personalities in the world. Okay, we already know that Morgan, he plays an important role in anthropology. As well as his personal intensive fieldwork in a native culture with comparative work and general theory, Morgan founded the great branch of anthropology, that is called as the socio-cultural anthropology. So who is the father of socio-cultural anthropology? This is found by the Louis Henry Morgan, and it is founded through the comparative analysis of the family and the kinship structure. And the second one is Germany. He established a psychological and later a geographical tradition of the cultural anthropology. So the cultural anthropology got psychological as well as geographical tradition by the Germany. And Theodore Waits, he is the person who developed the basic physical anthropology. And Adolf Bastien, he surveys the cultures of people all over the world and interfered about the basic psychological configurations in man. And next one is the Ratzel. Ratzel blended the geography with anthropology and created a subfield called anthropogeography. Okay, so you have to just remember all these thinkers' names and their works. Okay, and the concept of culture, which is given by the Sir Edward Brunett Taylor. So Taylor, he is considered as the father of the modern anthropology. And in his epoch-making book, that is Primitive Culture, Taylor already defined the culture in the following words, that is, the culture or civilization, taken in its wide ethnographic sense, is that complex whole which included the knowledge, belief, art, morals, law, custom and any other capabilities and habits acquired by the human as a member of the society. So this is the definitions which is given by the Taylor in his book Primitive Culture. And the discipline of sociology and anthropology, it is considered as the twin sister after the Industrial Revolution and the colonial expansions respectively. So after the First World War, the outlook of the anthropology got changed. We already know that its 19th century is considered as the birth of anthropology, means the professional way of anthropology. And the Malinowski, he talked on the importance of the field study in contrast to the speculations about the primitive people. So these are the some important aspects of the anthropology. So during the Second World War, the thing happened is American anthropologists who became more attentive to the psychological problems and issues of the whole nations. So why they become so attentive? It is to understand the basic features of the developed civilizations like the Japanese, Chinese and the Russians. So that time to study the national character, it is very popular in that period. So at the end of the World War, anthropology got the French scholar, that is the Claude Lévi-Strauss, who emphasized that was restricted to the formal aspect of the culture. So this happened after the Second World War. And by the end of the Second World War, the physical aspect of anthropology also took a new turn. Means it was no longer a study limited to a different kinds of measurements, study of growth and development, and it became permanent due to the rediscovery of the genetics. So genetics plays an influence in the physical anthropology. Okay, that is the physical aspect of anthropology. Early time it was concentrating on the taking measurements rather than explanation or the interpretations. So once after that, the study of growth and development became prominent due to the rediscovery of the genetics. So this progress in the study of the human genetics, which provided a firm basis of the integration between the physical anthropology as well as the social anthropology. So the anthropologist's basic interest in prehistory is more or less akin to primitive ethnography. And the British evolutionary and diffusionist theories, it met a setback. So that time what happened, the diffusionist theories were there and British evolutionary were there. So this met a setback, but the structural functional theory emerged as the most important school. Okay, so this plays the important after the Second World War, that is the structural functional theory. All these theories are important for us. This is in chapter 6 in paper 1. So this is important for us, and that time we will discuss it widely. And this period, it can be said as the formative phase of institutionalization of the anthropology. So once after the Second World War, it happened, what happened? It happened that this institutionalization of the anthropology. So it was further strengthened by the British social anthropology, and which acquired a definite recognition on a global plane. And the concept of colonial anthropology or the neo-imperialism in anthropology is comparatively a recent achievement. So this is the end of today's discussions. I hope you all got it. Thank you.